Welcome back to the second segment of today's business show. I am Tammy McGoy, partner with Warren Averett and your 2016 chair. On the second segment, joining me is Dr. Gary Wright. He is the Medical Director of Emergency Services at Fort Walton Medical Center. Welcome to today's show.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, since I don't know you, Gary, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and to the viewers, how long have you been here and that type of thing?
Sure. I moved here to Fort Walton Beach about 2 years ago. Previous to that, I graduated from medical school in Arkansas, trained in emergency medicine at Orlando Regional Medical Center.
Okay.
Served in the Air Force for a few years and then got out. And I've worked for several different community, academic, and private hospitals over the years. But fate has led me back to the Gulf Coast. I'm glad to be here.
Good. Well, I know, I'm sure your life is very, very interesting and involved in the emergency services. Is it just like we see on TV?
It's exactly like you see on TV.
Just exactly like that. Good.
Yeah, like Grey's Anatomy, ER.
Yeah,
it's all that.
I love all those shows. Yeah. Well, it definitely takes a special person to be able to handle the stress dealing with emergency services, and so we're blessed to have you here, and so thank you for that service.
Well, you're welcome.
I know there's some exciting new stuff going on at the Fort Walton Medical Center, and today we're going to be talking about the new trauma center. So tell me a little bit about what is the difference between a trauma center versus a community hospital?
Well, Fort Walton Beach Medical Center is the perfect example of the difference between the two. Mm-hmm. You look back years ago, Fort Walton Beach Medical Center was a smaller community hospital with limited services, and over the years they've continued to grow and add services along the way. Traditionally, your hospitals that are very small don't have cardiology services, don't have neurosurgeons, don't have trauma surgeons, people that can take care of those critical patients. And what we're doing over the last few years is we're moving from the older community hospital to a center that has the capability to provide comprehensive services, including those to patients with critically ill trauma.
Okay. Well, I know the trauma center has been talked about for a couple years now, at the chamber anyway, as to bringing it to this community where there's been level 1 trauma centers within the state, and now this one I think is a level 2. So what is a trauma center? What good will it bring to our community? Well,
a trauma center will bring the capabilities of a comprehensive center that provides for the care for critically ill trauma patients.
Okay.
Currently, if you have an injury, say for instance you're injured on Highway 98, you're in a bad car crash, you're critically ill, the current state regulations would require you to be life-flighted probably to either Pensacola or to Panama City.
Okay.
You're talking about you're an hour away any way you go, and if you have to go by ground, it could be even longer to get to the trauma center. And the purpose of the legislation that was put through to enable other centers to have trauma center designation in the state of Florida has put Fort Walton Beach Medical Center in the position of being able to go through the American College of Surgeons for verification of our capability to provide the level of service to the patients of the community.
Okay. So you're trying to, in a trauma situation, that's that critical hour is called is it the golden hour? I've heard that term before.
Yes, ma'am.
Where you really need to focus on trying to save that person's life. And so having a trauma center within this area will give them that advantage that you have the resources locally where they're not being transported.
Right. It gives you the capability to provide care for those people in the first hour, which is traditionally the large number of people that die quickly.
Okay.
And it also gives you the capability to provide for that second tier of resuscitation in the patients in the 3 to 4 hour period that normally would die if they didn't have the level of service that a trauma center is capable of giving a patient.
Okay. How many physicians are at the trauma center right now? Or I know you're going to be verified. You're going to be verified soon as a trauma center, but how many do you expect?
Well, we have a large number of physicians that provide care to the trauma patients.
Okay.
And I can't give you the exact number, but I can tell you that the team that provides that care is going to be starting in the emergency department. You have emergency medicine physicians that staff the emergency department 24 hours a day. You have trauma surgeons who are
Okay.
in the hospital 24 hours a day that are there. We have trauma orthopedists, we have neurological surgeons, we have urological surgeons, and all the other medical specialty consultants to help take care of the patients that have other problems.
Okay.
You know, trauma patients aren't just trauma patients.
Right. There could be a whole bunch
there
of.
are people with heart disease, with hypertension, with diabetes that happen to have had a car crash or fall and hit their head. You know, so
Okay.
the trauma team is a multidisciplinary team.
Okay.
And what we've done over the last year and a half is put together the additional specialists that were not in place before
Okay.
in order to round out this team so that we can provide care to these patients.
Okay, so the Fort Walton Medical Center is going through the verification process right now, and is that expected to be completed sometime in the near future?
We have a verification visit from a survey team from the American College of Surgeons that's coming in November,
Okay,
and that'll be a 2-day site survey to look at all of our processes. And what they do is they come in and they look at the year and a half's worth of data that we have when we've been collecting data in the trauma system, and they'll go through those data points, look at our charts, interview our employees at Fort Walton Beach Medical Center, interview the physicians that are there, and then they'll go through looking at the patients that are in the hospital to verify that we're meeting the standards that are put out by the American College of Surgeons.
okay, so once that verification process is over, then are you opened up as a trauma center, or how does that work? Do you know?
Well, assuming that we're going to pass this
Yeah.
survey,
Yes.
we will be able to take back a certification to the state of Florida
Okay.
Department of Health, and to demonstrate to them that we have been verified by the American College of Surgeons. You know, at that point, we will be designated as
Okay.
a Florida state trauma center as well.
Okay, good. How many trauma centers are in Florida? Do you know?
I think it's on the order of about 15.
Oh, okay. So that's neat that we would have our own trauma center in this community. So what a
Right.
great thing to have.
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of specialized training for staff that you have to do. Can you talk a little bit about the specialized training?
Sure, there's a lot of training that goes on, and starting off with the nursing staff, we have requirement for all the nursing staff in the emergency department to be through a course called the Trauma Nurse Core Curriculum.
Okay.
You know, it's a comprehensive program to educate the nurses on the care of the trauma patient. Also, the surgical nurses, the intensive care nurses, all take that Trauma Nurse Core Curriculum. We also have an additional training program that we have for all those nurses, which is a nursing orientation to our trauma center.
Okay.
And we go through the individual processes in each department and how we do things individually through this hospital.
Right.
You know, it's going to vary between which hospitals you work at. So if we have new people coming into to our medical center,
Right.
we have a specific orientation just for the trauma portion.
Right. Well, I can't imagine that the emergency services, the trauma center environment, you know, all of the training that would definitely need to go into that to make sure that you're equipped and able to help, you know, the patient, you know,
Right.
from to health, basically.
Right, and that's just the nursing portion of it. If you look at the physician side, all the physicians are required to have 16 hours of trauma continuing education every year.
Okay.
Plus, in order to be eligible to be on the trauma team, you have to meet certain specialty requirements for training.
Okay.
You know, for instance, the emergency medicine doctors are trained in emergency medicine.
Right.
The trauma surgeons have to have a fellowship training and certification in trauma and critical care. You know, we all pick our specialists to participate on the team, and they have to meet those requirements that are very stringently set out by the
Right.
American College of Surgeons.
Well, Dr. Gary Wright, thank you so much for attending today. It sounds like a lot of good things are happening at the medical center. You are involved in the emergency services. You're a doctor of that type of service. So we again appreciate you spending your time here educating us and the community. And we have lots to look forward to in November.